All right. We'll start off with the citizen parent complaint. We got a couple of emails. You guys help me out here. I've been speaking all day. You want to read some of these out loud? Put that. Give Chandrika that one. So these are people who email things in. Kim, you want to read the next one?
From Bridget DeLongchamps, dear Mayor and Town Council members, I understand there's a meeting tonight regarding the replacement of the portables. The existing portables are unsanitary, unsafe regarding weather and potential threats, or simply not in the state conducive to learning. The parent of the WA Westlake Academy student is unbelievable to me that they were not replaced years ago. I urge you to make a decision tonight to move forward with a solution, even if temporary. We do not have time to wait 3 or 5 years for permanent solutions, which would take into account future growth of Westlake. I've heard the proposal by Brody Modular that could be implemented before the beginning of the next school year, providing a safe and healthy environment next fall would be the best news. Bridget DeLongchamps, not a resident. From Gail Krieger. Dear Mayor and Council, I'm in favor of replacing the oldest portable classroom buildings with new, safe, and good quality modular buildings this year. While our students will learn in whatever classrooms we have and with our teachers to teach in whatever classrooms we have, those old buildings are past their prime. I'm a substitute teacher at Westlake Academy. I've spent many days in them, including days where we knew there were threats made to campus. Thankfully, the doors got new locks this year. I attended the prior town council meetings and discussed the portable replacements and cost of constraints on new construction. With that in mind, I tried to imagine fixing up the existing portables. Truthfully, it would be a waste of time and money to spend on them. I've had kids at Westlake Academy for 10 years. It was my understanding those were intended as temporary classrooms. Back when the portables had special classes in them, art and music, PYP students walked down to them as well. Temporary seems to be semi-permanent. I understand that there's a long-term building project is not guaranteed because the cost to build is extremely high. It is not certain a large bond will be approved by the residents in a vote. It's also my understanding that Westlake has $20 million in debt on the Westlake Academy campus buildings. So we should make our campus better and take this opportunity to provide nice classroom spaces. The proposed new modular classrooms will serve students and staff for a very long time and be worth the investment. Sincerely.
Okay, so here's another email sent by Sarah Thomas, Westlake Academy. To whom it may concern, 2011 teachers were told that we would have portables for 2 years. Fast forward, we still have portables and we have added additional students. It is a challenge to host cooperative groups in my classroom because it is so small. I've had to endure the smell of a dead rodent for over 2 months. When the air conditioner comes on, my wall vibrates, making empty chairs and desks vibrate. It does create an exciting game of whack-a-mole to find the noise. Everyone is aware of the safety risks from weather or the unthinkable. Also, it is hard to entice a new teacher to come to Westlake Academy and work in a portable. I don't know all the financial details and timelines. However, I do believe that even with the addition to the A&S building, we will still lack adequate space. Therefore, there will most likely be a long-term use for modular buildings. We desperately need room for the following: secondary library, storage, more than 2 bathroom stalls, large testing room for IB testing, AP tests, mock exams, etc., and a larger secondary cafeteria, even if there isn't a kitchen, a place for students to bring their food to eat. Teachers are asked to take a break during their personal lunchtime to walk around and check on our seniors during their lunchtime because we've had to spread them out. Frequently, our PE department is misplaced because we have to use the gym anytime we need a larger room. So there is a trickle-down impact to the entire campus.
Thank you. We have some online submissions who want to come up and speak. Joseph Gubler.
Another mail that too.
Now, did you give it to the town secretary?
It was sent to the like these letters were sent.
What time was he sent?
Marla Trivedi sent another email to the entire council, like these emails were sent. Would you want me to read it out?
What's the time and date on it?
What time was it sent?
It was sent at 3:32 today.
Okay, you can read it out loud. Go ahead.
Okay, super. Dear council members, as I will not be able to attend tonight's meeting, I wanted to take the opportunity and share my concerns with you via email in regard to the Brody modular conversation. First up, I would like to make it clear that I am in favor of replacing the old portables with a permanent structure. Safety and security of our school is very important. There is a due process that needs to be followed to award a company a government contract over $50,000. It is my understanding that this process did not take place as Brody Modular never participated in a public bid. In the December 19th meeting, all of you agreed that more information needs to be provided, financing needs to be considered, public input needs to be taken, and all of this quickly. This did not happen. No public meetings were being held since then. I know all of you are successful businessmen and women, and I don't think any of you would ever sign a $3.5 million contract for your company or personal use before vetting and considering all your options. I would like to strongly appeal to you to do the right thing and follow proper procedures and protocols. Thank you for your time, Marla Trivedi.
Thank you. Next up is Joseph Gubler. He'll come up here, and is there a mic up there? Yeah, it's supposed to. And try to keep it to 3 minutes. Sometimes we'll let you go over.
Great. My name is Joe Gubler. I relocated to the DFW area with my family. You might ask, how did I end up in Westlake? How did we know from 1,400 miles away that this was the right place for us? It's actually pretty simple. Westlake is a great town. Like a ray of light to us. Stood out from the other options. Liked, of course, Westlake Academy. We like the careful design of the residential communities, the clever way that industry and business have been integrated into the town's economy. Probably most importantly, we like the sense of community. Like-minded group of self-made professionals and entrepreneurs come together to build and sustain something. Unfortunately, I'm coming before you at this town council meeting tonight because I'm deeply concerned that all of these great things have been put at risk by the events of the past 9 months. One thing that I've noticed is there's been a huge decline in the civility and the tone of political discourse in this town since the election. That's a concern to me. And others, I think, will have a lot to say about that, but I would just say that we get enough of that scorched earth, total war politics at the national level, at the state level. We do not want to see that in our town. This is a community with brothers and sisters here trying to build a better future together. And I think we can all do better on that. So I'll leave that point there. The second point is I've seen an unprecedented and I think dangerous level of turnover and defection in the ranks of the town's employees since the election. We've lost 2 directors of finance. In fact, the ranks of the town manager office are so depleted that the mayor is serving as the acting town manager. That doesn't seem like a good idea. So, why is this a concern to me? To me, I see chaos. I think we focus a lot on politicians. Really, it's the town employees over time. So that beacon of light that I could see from California, Westlake, part of what made it great. Yet, since the election in the span of 9 short months, they've been alienated, they've been driven out, and I know, the mayor and council members felt that there were things done better in this town. But you're right. There were things. That's true of every organization. The greatest organizations are available for change. The most important prerogative when you inherit Westlake started with something great. Stewardship is just as important. Making sure that you don't destroy what you have. So I'm very concerned about what we've seen with town employees, the coverage that we have. I'd like to hear a lot more going forward about how we're going to ensure that we replace them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Camille Ace.
Can you hear me? Okay. My name is Camille Ace. In September, at the September HOC meeting, I shared my thoughts with council representatives that a more effective way to communicate the ideas and plans of the town of Westlake would be to refrain from making negative remarks about the previous or current town council members. It's just not productive, and it continues to be very divisive. I'm revisiting this discussion because I continue to see the negative remarks being made. Additionally, Mr. Kilbride, I'd like to address the message you sent to me on my private messenger account on Saturday night. It took me by surprise that you took it upon yourself to reach out to me after you read a personal comment I made on another individual's Facebook page regarding a town issue. Under normal circumstances, a citizen would welcome a personal response from the mayor, maybe even be excited. However, the tone of your message was to immediately criticize a fellow council member, and when I responded with my disappointment because you did not address any concerns expressed in my post or anyone else's post, you deemed my message or my ideas phony, your words, and continued to flood my personal messages. Not only did my concerns not get addressed, but now there's an unsettling feeling that if I question any aspect of the town's discussions, I will be spending my Saturdays going back and forth with the mayor on Messenger rather than enjoying a nice date night with my husband, which was the case. How can I trust you are actually listening to the citizens as you claim to do if your instinct is to undermine an opposing view? The takeaway from this experience is that it may be best to avoid addressing the citizens' concerns through private messages unless that person invites you to do so. And please, we beg you to listen and hear what the citizens' concerns are without defensiveness and judgment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Next up is Rachel Richardson.
I'm Rachel Richardson. I had a couple of comments, and I'm going to start with portables. One of the emails that was read described needing more space, needing a larger building for things like cafeterias. While I think the portables probably should be replaced, I also see where that email directly referenced that we just need a permanent building. While there needs to be some sort of help with the portables, I know in 5th grade that all 5th graders had portables, and that was just how it was. In most school districts, there are going to be portables. Should they be better, and should we replace them after a while? Yes, but ultimately, we need a permanent foundation so we have more space for our kids. I literally moved across 114 so that my kids could go to Westlake because we couldn't make the lottery. And now that I've been here for a year and a half, I feel like it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. It all looked really great on the outside. The tour was really amazing. Now that I'm hearing a lot more things about the school and how we don't have enough funding for things like science equipment for 6th through 8th grade, I feel like we made a bad mistake. Our biggest argument at my home right now is whether we should continue moving forward into our house that's not even completed building or put it up for sale like I wish to do. My other issue, which seems to go with other people, would be mocking the other people that have a different idea. I have noticed that there have been quite a few emails saying that they are in support of portables, which is what you are wanting to do. But yet Chadrika had a different idea that did say, yes, let's have new portables, but also we need a permanent building. And it seemed like since it had just that little bit of something that referenced a permanent building, let's sweep that under the rug and let's go ahead and read these emails. That fits our agenda. I also agree with the email. I don't know why I'm getting emails from Westlake Academy from the mayor as well as the Westlake email. That's 2 emails. That's flooding my emails with the same information. We didn't have that with the prior mayor. I just want to see it once and be done with it. I do not like the bashing of other people. We get that enough. I am pretty sure, Kim, you had a Facebook message not that long ago, and at the HOC, it was some sort of email or something about your few months being in office, and at the HOC meeting you said you got some backlash, you won't do it again. I haven't seen that from you again. However, I am still seeing it from you, and that is disappointing. I think what we're failing to see is that the former mayor, while people want change and want something different, I get it. She was there for a long time. She also set the foundation of why a lot of us moved here before things changed. What she set forward in Westlake as the town, as the school, is part of why we moved here. I don't think that we need to forget that.
Thank you. Mr. Dasgupta?
Good evening. My name is Biswajit Dasgupta, and I'm a resident of 1811 Broken Drive. The thing is that my kids go to the Westlake Academy. One of the reasons we moved to the town. For the record, I am completely in favor of replacing the portables. I hate them. And kids are there, and if anything compromises the safety and security of our staff, students, the teachers, it has to be addressed immediately. There's no question about it. Concern, however, is a complete lack of transparency. In the last meeting, it was said that every option would be evaluated. Mr. Shiner went on record stating he's actually going to go and look at even options for used portables. So it was a question of looking at every aspect of that would be discussed, the pros, the cons, the cost. Parental feedback and the residents' feedback would be taken because they would be the ones paying for this. And then, whatever direction the council decides, next step would be to invite competitive bids. None of this has happened. We have gone straight. First of all, who even decided to go to the modular route, I don't know, but it's clear who did so. Second, why have we gone straight to a negotiation stage with a company that has a zero track record of building any schools? Why are we doing that? Would you have ever considered it if that person was not a resident of Westlake? And that person has been a generous donor, no doubt about it. Let's not take that away. But giving a donation on one hand and expecting a contract on the other is not philanthropy. How would they feel if they were on the receiving end of giving the contract to someone else and same process is followed? That's not right. Everybody should be treated equally and everybody should be given a fair chance to give a contract. For the record, from whatever I saw in the agenda packet, this company not only has no track record, but it also seems to be 40% higher than companies that do have a track record. The mayor sent out a mail. I have never seen in my 9 or 10 years in Westlake any council member or elected representative sending an email praising a particular company even before a contract has been awarded. So what are we discussing? It's decided. This is the transparency we voted for. So appeal to all of you. Appeal to your conscience. I'm not even ignoring the texts and the threatening emails that me and my family have received to an elected council member. Threats. I'll even ignore that, but do what's right. The people are watching. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Praveen Panikanta? Am I mispronouncing that right? Oh, sorry.
Hello everyone, this is Praveen Panakanti. I've been in Dallas for last 17 years. I just moved to Westlake last year. My kids has been going to the school for last 2 years in Westlake Academy. So I know other residents kind of express their concerns. I would like to echo that. So I just want the transparency in every step. We want to kind of, clearly outline what exactly the process followed in this whole process. Right? That's number one. While I was here, my son has been texting, Dad, these portables are either too cold or too hot. Right? I can show you this message. And he says the AC machines make too much noise, which is like hard for us students to hear the teacher. So if these are all the complaints, right, why are we even going for the replacement? Why can't we go for a permanent solution?
Sure.
So I think, I don't see a value in going for the temporary solution. Just want to raise a concern here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and one last comment is like, as everyone said, we would like to understand the process followed, and we would see whatever the company that we are contracting. I hope they have enough experience in this industry. Otherwise, we might hear the double noise than what my son expressed. I just wanted to make sure that you make the right choice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bala Sankar.
Good evening. I also wanted to speak briefly about the portables. So I think I wanted to echo what the gentleman prior had said, that ideally, we have young children, one about to enter into the years. And so a permanent structure seems ideal, especially if we're going to spend the dollars now to get another replacement portable structure. Could those funds be pushed forward to a more permanent structure more long term, ideally? I mean, you guys probably looked at the cost more diligently, quite superficial, but ideally, if there's a way to directly to a permanent structure, I think we would definitely be in favor of that. And of course, the process and all those things, I'm sure we have some bylaws or whatever else that dictate that, but our vote and our preference would be to
Sure. Thank you so much. Raj Trivedi, on down. Your attendance gets better and better.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you for the opportunity. I have been in this town for 15 years. I was a city council member for 2 years. Of those 2 years, 1 year was a COVID year. I actually personally visited portables. And after I came back at the portables, and I remember Anna saying this last year too, I made a comment that if I was going in these portables, I would not graduate. Portables need to be replaced. That has been my stand from day one. The option of temporary solution was floated year before last as well. But many of you at that time were not in favor of it. I understand, because you may not have full knowledge of where we stand. The council listened to you. We are a town of inclusion. We are a town of transparency. We are a town of brotherhood. We are a town where we do not intimidate someone if he or she has a different view than we do. We actually welcome, listen to them, understand their thoughts. And I have learned from my corporate experience that if you listen to people that have different opinion, it allows you the ability to make better decisions at the end of the day. It doesn't have to be the decision that someone imposes on you. As my wife stated in her email, there is a due process that we have. I'm grateful that we have citizens like Michael and Diane who generously donate to our city and town. I would like us to go through the process of bidding, vetting, qualifying, and identifying the right company. I hope at the end of the day it is a company owned by Westlake Citizen. It will be good for you. It will be good for the city. It will show transparency. It will show your genuine care for the citizens and our students rather than circumventing the process and making a swift and quick decision. So I appreciate you listening to me, and I appreciate you giving me 30 seconds of time. I finished before 3 minutes.
Oh, you're so good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yogesh, come on up.
Thank you, everyone. I'll make it quick and fast. Mr. Kilbride, thank you again for taking the position and running for this office and being the mayor here, it's a tough job. It's not an easy one. I do know that. Doing anything in a public domain is simply difficult than one could imagine before getting themselves into it. So wish you luck with that. But I'll tell you, we have 3 children at Westlake Academy, aging 5, 10, and 12. We're going to be here for the rest of our life. We're not going anywhere. I moved from California after 20 years being there and carefully decided where I wanted to raise my family and my kids. The process was lengthy, extensive, detailed. And I chose Westlake as a town to be in and bring my family to. And a part of that was Westlake Academy. I was aware of the portables even before I moved here. But we thought there would be a solution. When you have great people in a great town, great people come together, find solutions to the problems. And that's what we looked for. And we thought, okay, we'll go there. And it's a great place. Met everyone. A very good place to be. Raise your kids, raise your family, send your kids to school too. So also prior to your campaigns, you sent me some messages, and I kind of paid quite close attention to those regarding the portables that needed to be gone. And we were excited about that. Again, everyone has choice to vote. We support you, we support others. All of that is great. Now you're the sheriff in town. So we look up to you to making those decisions, making the town better, making the school better. Similar to other people's concerns here, the children's give them. My daughter's also telling me the same thing. They're cold, they're hot, they're noisy. Well, we don't want them to be. We all come from wealthy backgrounds, can certainly afford better things. And I want to thank you, Mr. Colby here, for the generous donation to the school. And I would like to encourage all of us to do the more, and so we can help the school as they've stepped up and shown their commitment to the town and the school. I appreciate that. At the same time, some of these concerns I see that can be addressed simply by you as a leader and just by addressing the due process. And I would wish the best of luck to Mr. Colby, and I would support everything we can with to help us get the contract and keep him with a Westlake resident who's also helping the town and the school. There's nothing wrong with that. All we request is a transparent and due process. So whatever that is, I'm sure there is a procurement department here at every town, just like there's a public fairness policy that we need to follow, and there are rules and regulations here that need to be followed. So all we look for is a straightforward, transparent process, and we wish our friend Mr. Colby the best. And even if they're a little higher, I would totally want to support it because it's a resident of our town. So let's just go through the process if possible. And again, no one's going to oppose you if you're a little bit higher or whatever that case may be. As long as there's a process, we'll go through and let the best company take the contract. That's all I would like to do. And anything we can do to help support our local residents, towns, we are all friends here. We should support each other, and we should take this town forward to what's been built upon and continue to prosper and progress as a community, as a society, and as a town together. I do not like to see these confrontations and these tensions between you council members, what I've been hearing about for the last several months. It's just not good for the town. This is not what we're looking forward to. That's not why we moved here. Most of the people in this room are wealthy enough to go live anywhere in America, actually. We chose Westlake for what it is, and would like to make it better, not worse. Thank you again.
Thanks so much, buddy. Okay, Troy Kilgore.
Tony.
Sorry, my eyes are going. I need glasses. My wife's arguing with me on this.
No worries. So Tony Kilgore, 13117 Thornton Drive. Good evening. I'll keep my comments. I've been a resident for 10 years. I've got 3 kids at Westlake Academy. My statement here tonight is to request that the council vote in favor of the resolution 2310, authorizing negotiation with Brody Modular to replace the existing Westlake Academy portables. From my perspective, the urgency to action on this is due to safety. We've all heard it. Everybody's repeating that, but the safety of our kids and safety of our teachers is paramount. Right or wrong, I feel like the safety is more at risk during the hours that they spend in portables than any other building on campus. As a community, we need to remedy the situation now, or unfortunately, we'll regret it later. We watch the news and can appreciate a variety of risks that compromise the school safety every day. Weather, shooting threats, whatever. In my opinion, we need to act now and not spend more time. I appreciate process, but this has gone on long enough. Act now and not hold it up with bureaucracy. I very much appreciate Brody Modular, their willingness to meet timelines to get things expedited. I think pushing now is the most important thing. Otherwise, I don't know if we'd live with it. Get this voted through, done by next school. I want to thank the council for considering my comments.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, we can wait to the end. And the Mr. Joe Mohan, come on down.
I'm Irish, so I will try to keep this to 3 minutes. My pledge. I hadn't necessarily planned this when I wanted to speak on the issue, the building issue talked about, but hearing the eloquence of everybody else, I felt compelled. I've spent dinners, with me and my family, and watched, picked up and taken your kids, many of you, to school. And it's just so disappointing, the tenor. I think of last time I was here, you guys have all turned over on a change, much of a change agenda, moving with the adequate speed that's necessary. But it's just, the negativity and seeing people that I love being hurt has been very difficult. I appreciate everything you guys do. You guys do this for free. Do this, I know, Saturday nights, on Monday nights, on days that you could be with your family. You're doing this. Much appreciation, and I know you guys are doing the best you can. Specific to, usually I just show up for selfish reasons, and this one, maybe it's a little less selfish. My fourth kid will graduate this year. I've heard every story about the portables that you could possibly imagine. We're in violent agreement that they need to be replaced. I'd say there's two issues that I just asked for your consideration. The first one being having a long-term plan. We know that the portables are a temporary solution. And you guys, the can got kicked down the road. You're inheriting this. You're trying to act quickly. But that we just do the proper diligence. And we don't overspend on something that's really meant to be a temporary solution. As importantly, and I think this goes part and parcel with the first, is we have to look at due process. I used to work in politics, and we used to have a test that was called the New York Times front page. And in this case, I guess it would be the front page of the Dallas Morning News. And that would say, in this case, political donor gets a no-bid contract. I'm not saying, and I want to thank the Colbys for their donation. It looks like the product is amazing, and I'm not saying anything to slight anyone. What I'm saying is that we need to be even more, we can't afford to be opaque in something where there's a potential conflict of interest. I think we need to go the extra mile, do the extra due diligence, and do that publicly, and make the right decision. And I think the right decision is, hey, let's do something quickly that gets these kids out of something that's substandard. But let's not do so at the expense of our reputation as a town. Let's not do so as the reputation of just making the right financial decision. We're Westlake. We have champagne taste with a beer budget. Very little revenue coming in here, so we have to spend it wisely. Thanks again, you guys. You guys really appreciate all the time that you spend in the city. We're all very pleased to be a member of this town. So much.
Thank you so much, buddy.
In particular, thank you for your service.
Thank you so much.
It'll be the last time I see you.
Appreciate it, Joe.
Any other last-minute submissions or that were missed out here? We'll move on to items of community interest. Come on down, Mr. Pastor. Chiefs won. We can start off with that.
They did, and congratulations to Council Member Dasgupta for winning the Council Super Bowl Challenge.
Woohoo!
Yes, so there you go.
What do I get? That's
We have a closet full of Westlake swag you can choose from. Your choice.
I love that. I love that.
Yes.
Thank you.
So thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Thank you, everybody who is watching live at home. And I want to send a particular thank you to each and every person here in the gallery tonight. I know everybody is extremely busy, have a lot going on in their lives, but it's this level of community engagement that will help shape the town and our school in the future. So thank you so much for everybody attending tonight, that's for sure. Some of our items of community interest this evening are, we're going to look ahead right at the Academy where the students will be off on this Friday. It is a staff developmental day, so the staff will be there. But this Monday, the town of Westlake Academy, and the municipal court will all be closed to observe President's Day. Our next town council meeting will be February 27th. That's a Monday, of course. We're going to move it back to Mondays. And then on March 3rd, that's a Friday, from 11 to 1 at the Texas Motor Speedway will be the Metroport Chamber sponsored and hosted Alliance Development Forum. I sent each and every one of you guys an invite today. This is a great event that is put on by the Chamber each year, where they kind of break down all the development that's going on and around the cities and towns that we are partners with in our chamber. We have great guest speakers, and they kind of really give a great outline of what's going on in our communities. So I encourage everyone who wants to attend to please RSVP. A couple of additional items here that I'd like to talk about. We have put an extensive amount of communications out in the last few days, and will continue as well, to help educate residents and stakeholders about the changes on Highway 170. There was a major traffic pattern on westbound that just happened on February 9th. It's going to be going on through sometime March, weather pending. So please, I invite anyone who has any questions about that to take a look on our social media pages. We sent out an email, I believe, text alerts, all kinds of stuff. It's on the front page of our website as well if anybody has any questions regarding the Highway 170 traffic pattern change. Also, I want to say that we had a very successful State of the Communities address. Again, another event put on by the Metroport Chamber that happened just a few days ago. It's a great opportunity for local mayors in each one of the participating cities to get up and tell us a little bit about what's going on, all the exciting things. And of course, as you all know, there's a lot of exciting things going on in Westlake. So it was the mayor's first venture into that. So great job there. It was very informative, and I encourage anyone who would like to attend in the future to stop by, because it's a great event as well. And then finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the weather event that happened just a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, it caused a lot of folks to be out of school, away from work, that kind of thing. But I wanted to send a couple of special acknowledgments to two gentlemen who were on the town staff who did an exemplary job throughout this process. Paul Andreessen and Corey Cottrell, they are with the Public Works Department for the town of Westlake. These guys worked 24 hours a day throughout that entire process, salting, sanding, assessing the situation, even helping out TxDOT when they couldn't get to some of the ramps and some of the major highways that go through Westlake. These guys were exemplary. They were the cause, really, to help our communications department get out the message to all of you guys and so many other people. That week, we ended up sending out 24 Facebook posts, 16 Twitter posts, 9 Instagram posts, 8 emails, 9 website posts, and multiple text alert to subscribers. And we got all that information in the middle of the night from Corey and Paul. So I want to say, publicly how great those guys were.
Outstanding performance.
And those are your items of community interest.
Thank you so much. Next session is reports. Please take a look at the reports. Does anyone have any questions you want to see? We're going to table F1 till the next meeting. For F2 is quarterly report, Westlake Academy Foundation. Does anyone receive the report in that? Or
Yeah, no question.
no questions? And nothing on F3, receive a report of the Texas Education report card. We received that a while back. This is just some minor updates. No questions? Okay.
No question.
Move on to consent agenda. Is there anything in the consent agenda anyone needs to talk about?
No questions from me.
No.
All right. And I get a motion to approve the consent. Can I get first?
I'll make a motion.
Can I get a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right. We'll move on to our regular agenda items. We'll start off with the I2, hold on, did I skip something here? A public hearing. Right here. We have a public hearing. H1, conduct a public hearing in considering the approving Westlake Resolution 23-2, accepting the Texas Academic Performance Report, and take appropriate action. I'll open up to public hearing.
Dr. Wilson, are you presenting on this?
Good evening, everyone. Council, it's good to see you guys again. So, according to state law and Texas Educational Agency, we're required to do a public hearing for the purpose of reviewing the school accountability rating for the year. According to the report, we have scored an A in all of the categories that have been noted in the report, with the exception of the area of relative performance in terms of economic. So what we, in essence, what we have here is where we are compared to about 40 schools across the state of Texas who have a similar demographic to the town of Westlake or to Westlake Academy. We are shown that we are not necessarily in that same category of achieving above those peers in a way that I believe we should be doing as an organization. So we do have some work to do as a school and as an academy to ensure that all of our students are receiving an appropriate education that actually moves them forward in a way that they can be competitive in whatever environment that they're in. So based on this information, it is at the board's, basically at the board's decision to decide whether to accept the report as it's been presented, and also to, my recommendation is to.
Any questions?
None for me.
No.
Well, we have to open up the public hearing. Any questions to that report?
Thank you, Dr. Wilson.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you,
Wilson.
Doctor.
We'll close the public hearing. Can I get a motion to approve? Can I get first? Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Now we're moving on to our regular agenda items. We're going to start off with I2, presentation discussion, the Sam and Margaret Lee Arts and Sciences Facility. An update to that.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. What we want to do tonight is update you guys on the A&S expansion, extending the building. Back in April of 2022, we were asked to, let's see if I can get the keyboard. There we go. Spacebar. Thank you, Jason. So back in April, we were given direction to pursue the two-story option. We had presented a three-story option and a single-story option, and the direction from the council was to make sure that we meet the immediate needs and also have enough classrooms in the buildings in the new extension to accommodate the moving of classrooms out of the portables into this space. So with that, we had 2 arts and science rooms as well as 3 science labs, storage. We initially started out with 10 general classrooms. After consulting with Dr. Wilson, we added an additional classroom, which took up some office space that we initially had in the original floor plan, and then it also included the workroom and restrooms as well. So the floor plan. So this would be the ground floor. The initial building was the footprint. It was the same. As I mentioned, on the lower end where you have the classroom, kind of next to the driveway was an office. With Dr. Wilson's recommendation, we turned that into an 11th classroom for capacity reasons. And then you have the 2 art rooms on the first floor with a shared storage room to go with that. On the second floor, you have the restrooms up top. You have the 3 science labs to the west of the building. Then you have the additional classrooms on the east side of the building. The exterior of the building, we were given some guidance on trying to make sure it blends with the original buildings, the PYP buildings. And so this is a view from the north. So if you're in the PYP buildings and you're looking down towards the Arts and Science building, that would be the north side of the building. And then if you're driving down the driveway and looking back towards the building, that would be the south view. And then this would be the east view and the west view. So the west view, if you look at the kind of the shadow at the bottom, that is the existing building. And so this is looking, if you're walking up from the sports court, for example, and you're looking towards it. And then the top view, the east view, if you're driving into the the main entrance of the school, if you're picking up your kids for PYP, that's the elevations that you would see from that perspective. So the next slide, we'll look at, we had cost updates just recent month. They've been working on those for the past 2 to 3 months. These cost estimates came from Stillman Freeman, who has built many schools in the area and currently are building schools. The total cost of this building is $16.9 million. The construction costs are about $13.9, and then your soft costs, which would include your FF&E, your IT, engineering costs, geotech, promotions, and everything that goes in that building related to classroom microscopes, to art tools, and all those things. That's included in that FF&E package as well. We would have to relocate some utilities on the far east side, so that cost is about a little over $100,000, but that is also included into the $13.9 million as well. But just wanted to make sure everybody knew we had to move some utilities. Current building standards, we were, when you add on a certain volume of square feet, you have to put storm shelters in. What a lot of schools are doing now, such as Fort Worth and others, to make it more cost effective, they will do that shelter when you build a dining facility or a gym facility, so you can get more students in there. It's something that if we want to consider doing to this extension to the Arts and Science building, it would be an additional $1.2 million. Add that storm shelter. Funding sources, we currently have in the WA Campaign Fund $3.7 million, and this comes from when development comes in town and they make donations per lot. So, so that balance to date is 3.7. The A&S, there's some restricted funds that we have a donor that has donated funds to add on to that building, and it's their preference. That is at 2.9 million. So we're roughly at about 6.6 million cash on hand that we have. There are some options that we can do, and I'll let the mayor speak to those because he's been working with our bond consultants. There's a potential option to do COs, and then there's also an opportunity for the foundation to potentially do a capital campaign with this project as well.
How long have you been working on the Arts and Sciences expansion?
We've been talking about the Arts and Science building probably since 2019, I believe, is when we got brought back up and trying to move it forward.
Yeah. And but
a couple of years before that, though, we had the architectural plan.
Yes, we've looked at our master plan and reviewed that. I believe it was in 2016 or 2015.
Yeah, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But the real work started in 2019, right? When we, during that, I remember in 2019 was when the renderings and all were, Bennett Partners was told to make, and we were given a presentation.
Yes, so in 2019, we were given a presentation to look at what were our options.
And we've really come a long
expand
way
that.
since then.
Yes, because the goal then was to serve that immediate need and also see how we can get rid of the portable building.
Since you first did your first estimate for this, how much has the cost escalated?
We didn't do a lot of estimates in 2019 because we didn't have the programming done, and so we hadn't had any real hard cost. But our first estimate we did, I believe, was probably about $9 to $10 million.
Okay, so we've gone up about $7 million since we first started talking.
Right.
And how often does this come up on the agenda in the last couple of years? Probably every 3 months, huh?
As often as the council wants us to go research it. So it's been in several times, certainly.
So when we start looking at the school itself, this town's actually never done a formal bond vote for any of its bonds. Do you know that? Does anyone know that? We've never done a bond vote. And I looked at doing a bond vote and saying, well, do people really want this? And we got the cost estimates to do a bond vote. Just to advertise for a bond vote is like $150,000 just to advertise. It's different from running for election. Election, you just put your name on. You have to advertise at every polling station in Tarrant County. There's 36 locations in Tarrant County. I have to advertise outside this town to do that. When we first came into office, there was the opinion that we could not expand the school via certificates of obligations, and that there's an interpretation of a law that came down that we had to do a bond vote. And so we spent several months and hired new bond counsel, and we went to the Attorney General. The Attorney General's office said, I think your previous bond counsel misinterpreted something, and you can issue certificates of obligations. So when we first came in, there was a little bit of a delay of, like, how do you pay for all this stuff, right? So we are currently about $10.5 million short from this project. And I'll tell you from my experience in this town, if I bring this up in a meeting, I always have someone stand up, raise their hand, like, we're a rich town. We can raise this money overnight. And I've heard that since I've lived here. And that never actually comes to fruition. And we are a very rich town, and we do very well. But for this project, eventually, we're going to have to do a bond vote. And I put this on the agenda tonight to show the magnitude of where we need to go, right? We have about a $10.5 million lift. We can do a bond obligation for that, but we have to really crunch our numbers to make sure that was correct and we have the spare capacity. And so this has been the process of the last several months. So many of the things we do are pretty well calculated. We started off in June. We went through a bunch of iterations of what's the direction of the school, and we tried to figure out how we're going to pay for things, and very, very few things here are willy-nilly in how we execute things. And so, Sean Wilson, are you here right now? You want to come up for a second here? And on to this, kind of talk some of the things you see at the school and some of the things you would like to get changed, and of a direction of what is your strategic plan? You've been in the school for about a year, and you're formulating a plan itself. You'll probably give it to us in a few months here. But what's your issues at the school, things that you'd like to see change immediately, midterm and long term?
So I think in terms of my coming into Westlake Academy, it was really about learning and getting to know what was going on. So using several tools in terms of how to get feedback from constituents. I've used things like Thought Exchange to sort of engage folks in what the needs are and how they see things going on. At issue in the very first survey that was done was that of the portable buildings, the conditions that they are in on the campus. So from there, we had a few other conversations about policies and procedures and things that need to be put in place to add structure and to add sustainable structure to the organization, how it operates, and then now we're at the point where we're now talking about what are the things that are needed academically to ensure that our students are getting what they need to be successful at every opportunity within the organization. And I think when I am looking at our facilities, it's like, well, we do have a facility issue. We do have some crunch issues that we can't overcome, even if we exchange like for like. So as an example, we now have a lunch period that goes about 2 hours, starting at about 11 in the morning, ending at about 1 o'clock, using both the gym, first floor, and the multipurpose building. That's not enough space. Our older students are actually carting and carrying their lunches across campus, so just imagine what happens during the rainy times or during cold days when they're going to get their lunch inside of the cafeteria, but then they're going back to the portable buildings to eat their lunch. There's not a comfortable place in terms of where our students service. As we're looking forward, it's like we can have, and I think we do have, sort of the outline of a really great institution. But in order for us to capitalize on that outline, we have to put some things in place. And that is, how do we get the facilities that we need in order to build on the things that we want? So we want to see more of our students who are actually performing well on their IBD examinations. We've been fortunate to have 90+% of our students do this work year over year, but imagine how much better our students can be prepared if they had the facilities in place to provide them with the experiences that they need. Also, that it gives them some collaborative space where they can actually meet and not necessarily have always an adult present saying that we're in a classroom. I think we are trying to build a community where students are self-actualizing, self-modulating so that they can get work done and not necessarily need to be under the microscope of adults. I think that's what IB is intended to do for our students, and I think our students are ready. The question is, how can we make sure that we are ready as the leaders of the organization to move this forward? So when we're talking about a strategic plan, there is opportunity for us to really think about what size organization are we going to be. Are we going to be the 875? Are we 900? Are we 1,300 students? Or are we a retrenched organization where we actually shrink for a bit and then rebuild? There are some opportunities for us to think about who we are and where we're going. And even as far as how we are organized as an administration, what are the things that we need to do as an organization to ensure that the administrators are in the right spaces on the bus and making sure that they have the tools that they need to be. So as we are here today, it's like, how do we get an understanding of what our current needs are, and then how do we build a pathway for the future? And so our needs are, at the moment, about how do we address the issue of our portable buildings when learning is being hampered in so many ways. So just last week or 2 weeks ago, as mentioned in one of the letters, yes, our classroom, our portable classroom had to be vacated because of rodents, and not because the rodent was not removed, it is just because that's how long the stench lasts. And so we're moving classes around just to accommodate just regular education. So it is about the safety, the security. It is about the ability to have great instruction happening inside of our classroom. It is about how do we move forward and showing that we support our students and the great work that they're already doing, but even more so, how do we support our adults who are providing the services in those spaces? What are we doing to show that we are truly behind them and making sure that we have their best interests at heart and that we are truly looking out for the academic concerns?
So, Dr. Wilson, and everyone, thank you for taking the time to be here. And I know most of y'all aren't hanging on every minute of every meeting. And kind of how we got to this point is Troy Meyer brought in some bids for some brand new portables. Well, I'm a used car guy. I buy nice used cars, but I don't buy brand new ones. So then we're like, hey, what are the used solutions? But the thing that really got me is Sean was like, number one, like what I need right now is a replacement of these portables with something else. And yes, this wonderful building that went from being $10 million to 17 million or whatever, it's 3.5 years away, even if we said yes today. So I understand why folks are upset. If I was on the outside looking in going, hey, we're portable with portable, or there's a potential no bid or whatever. So we went from having just a few bids, maybe 2, I think, on new, to us going back as a council going, what about used? Because this isn't our forever solution. And then we hear about Brody, and Kim Greaves and I jumped in my Toyota Tundra and almost got killed once, and went down to Austin and literally on our dime and our time on our non-paying job to take a look at what the difference was. And it's totally apples and oranges, but I can understand if y'all haven't been through all the process that we went through, you're like, wait a minute, it's a quick deal to a Westlake donor, but it's the structures he's building will hold up way better to a tornado, which I'm probably more worried about a tornado than anything at the school. The bulletproof glass, on and on and on. It's truly is an apple and orange. Where I think we failed y'all is not really giving you a chart going, hey, here's a couple bids on new, here's a couple bids on used, here's expected lifetime, and here's what the Brody unicorn, apples and orange solution is. So I understand your frustration. If I heard, this thing was going fast or it didn't go out to bid, I'd feel the exact same way you do, but I promise you, we've been looking at this and trying to find a solution, and we're doing it because this guy said that's his number one priority, and we're trying to listen to him and listen to y'all. So I understand that there's some frustration, but I promise you, we're doing our due diligence. I mean, I went and looked at this facility, and I'm the one that suggested use so that we're not spending a bunch of money on a temporary solution versus a permanent structure.
Yeah, I want to, actually, sorry, if I can just jump in briefly. Tim, I want to echo a lot of what you just said. And the first is to thank everybody that's come out, especially those that made comments tonight, because it is all taken to heart. And if you don't think it is, then you are deeply mistaken. Like Tim, I was new to this council this past year. And so there's a big, steep learning curve trying to, get to grips with decisions that had preceded us, but also what were the most pressing matters that we would have to deal with and make decisions about as a council. And in the brief time that I've been involved here, Dr. Wilson, I can't imagine how many times we've all met just on the discussion of campus infrastructure. And we face a really real problem, and that is just limited resources, but infinite opportunity of what do we do. And, I know some of you expressed concerns about the origins of these portable buildings and also the lack of a permanent solution. I think, as the mayor said, one of the primary purposes of putting the arts and science expansion back on tonight is so you can see that this has been deliberated. We are constantly discussing what can we do as a permanent expansion to house children in a safe education environment. But in parallel, and again, Dr. Wilson, if you don't mind if I just lean on you a little bit here, we've been talking about would it make sense to have these portables replaced at the same time so we can make best use of both of these infrastructures going forward. And I think the view has been, yes, there is an absolute need for these replacement portables as well as an expansion to the arts and science. So we've been trying to battle and juggle both of these things in parallel. And as the mayor's pointed out, there's quite a gap financially between where we are today and where we need to be to execute on the arts and science. So we have about a $10.5 million, $11.5 million gap in order to have that done. But what we can do is execute on these portables. And I know a number of you, again, expressed concern about the nature in which Brody, in particular, appeared on the agenda. And here's what I can tell you from my experience. This is a topic has been on this agenda numerous times since I've been on council. In fact, over the last 3 meetings in December and January, it's been on almost every single time. And, Troy was tasked a little while ago with going out and soliciting bids to replace these portables with and came back with bids from, I think there was Ramtech and Mobile Modular. And then partway through this process, we were introduced to a new concept through Brody. And quite honestly, it was not an apples-to-apples comparison But we felt generally, or I'll speak for myself, I felt as though we had already gone through a bid solicitation process to at least have options. And so tonight, I hope all of you will stick through these next agenda items, because the whole purpose was to have Brody present to us, me as counsel, so I can understand the product. How do we compare it to the other two examples? Why is there a price differential? And then right after that, we're going to talk about all of the financing options to see if this is a reality. And here's the thing. It is true that there is a set of resolutions in here which we can technically approve if we want to proceed with the Brody modular solution. But that is just in here for convenience. There was no premeditation. I can tell you from my perspective on this council, there was no premeditation to rush through and bypass what should have been a proper procedure. So again, like Tim, I apologize to all of you if you felt somehow we were trying to do some inside deal with a resident of Westlake. That is not the case. We felt it warranted more discussion tonight, and that is the primary purpose of this evening. I am truly grateful you are all here to participate in that. So anyway.
And I second that. Thank you.
Yeah, and if I can just say a few words too. I am extremely, extremely touched that you guys are all here today. This kind of engagement in our town is something that I have dreamed of for many years. My kids are actually a lot older than a lot of yours in this room. My youngest is now graduating Westlake Academy this year. But when I ran in 2021, I was all by myself for a while there, and it was a really tough year. One of the big reasons I ran was the portables. When I came, I was brought architectural diagrams of what the new permanent building would look like. They were marched around at neighborhood meetings, on Westlake Academy campus meetings, and I thought they were going to happen, and then they somehow didn't. But I didn't realize for years. And so when I ran, I was really, really intent that one of my big goals was to get the portables on. Now, last year, before these guys were elected, I did not feel a genuine will to actually complete the portables and get permanent buildings on. And when I first heard about replacing portables with portables, I was quite disgusted, actually. Why would I want to replace portables with portables? It felt like a complete waste of money. And so lots of questions during the several months process of looking at different options, pricings, quality, delivery dates, and options, because head of school, Dr. Sean Wilson, has come in with new ideas that, quite frankly, none of us had thought about. So when you sit here today, I really hope, and all of you who are watching live stream, because I fought tooth and nail to get these meetings live streamed and archived, you will have questions answered. Questions like, why are we even bothering portables? Are we wasting money? How much longer will it take to get permanent buildings? What will it cost? Are we giving a Westlake resident some sweetheart deal and doing something that is not in the best interest of the town? These are all questions that are valid. They're extremely personal because this is a small town. We all live here. Our tax dollars are something we all work very hard for. And so I'm hoping all of you will listen online, watch on the archives, and stay around this evening because we have a lot of information to present. And that's what I wanted to say.
I would like to say something as well. And I want to say this for the record because a lot has been said about what I've been saying. I am strongly in favor of removing these portables. One of the main reasons why I ran also, because I do not like those portables, they should have gone yesterday. The safety of our students, our teachers, and staff is of the highest priority. And it's obvious that these portables need to go. What I have a concern about is the lack of process and transparency. I am not aware of any of these meetings that my council members are talking about. I was not invited to any of those. The last meeting we had was in December the 19th, I believe, and we agreed, all council members agreed, that we would develop a comprehensive plan for Westlake Academy, evaluate all options for permanent buildings, used portables, new portables, modulars, and go to the pros and cons of each one of them. We have not done that. Who decided to skip this entire thing and go straight to modular without a formal discussion of the council is my question. We are a council managerial form of government. We even skipped the part of soliciting feedback that was spoken widely in the meeting on the 19th from parents and residents considering this tab of $3.5 million is to be picked up by them. From all of that, I am, for the record, not against removing those portables. I also want, like each one of us here, them gone. But it is my responsibility as a council member, and so it is the responsibility of every council member sitting here, that we have to follow a process of the public money that we are using. Thank you.
So this meeting is actually part of that process. I set this meeting up. I'm the mayor. I set the agenda up. I set the agenda to discuss everything we're about to talk to tonight. We're probably going to take a break in a little bit and go on to all the other options. We looked at renting, used, and all those other items. And then Brody will come up and speak too. So we are doing that now. This is the process. Some people on council, I think Tim probably put the most into this. He went out and visited used sites. He went out to manufacturing sites. Troy has been out to all the manufacturing sites, I believe, right? Mansfield, Grand Prairie, and Austin. And then Kim's been out, and then Kim and Anna went up to Liberty to look at some other security items. Everyone in council has always participated, and we do a lot more work than you think. I mean, these things are 30 to 40 hours a month of time, and then wherever the council is, the mayor is 3 times. We're setting this up for a direction. Our current portables are 23 years old. We bought them used. And they were falling apart within 3 years. And so, as you're going to hear probably later tonight, we're going to go through our little decision process of why we're leaning towards a certain way. There's no predisposed thing tonight. You know, our rate limiting factor is, do we want to get rid of the portables? And when do we want to get them? Everyone up here says they want them out. The question is, when do you do it? And you have 2 options, this summer or next summer.
I want to add to that, because that's why it feels rushed, is we got to make a decision if we want to do this over the summer. That's the first thing. The second thing is we didn't create this problem. We inherited it. And when I heard Dr. Wilson say that that's his number one concern, I'm listening. And so I'm not going to apologize for jumping in a car and going out and finding and looking at used and new and alternate. I'm doing my job. And it is a free job. So my take the bull by the horns and go do it, it's because I know that we're on a time crunch. I mean, we got to make a decision. We all agree that this is bad. We inherited this, and we're just trying to make a good decision. So here's the rest of the process. Please stay around and see what the options are.
Yes, I just want to add one more.
I would like to add one more thing.
Let me,
Yeah.
Sandra,
sorry,
let me
go ahead.
finish, and then
Yes.
you can finish. Look, we have taken a very sequential, very ordered approach to this, okay? As I mentioned before, portables have been on and off the agenda since the beginning of time. I've lived in Westlake for 10 years. I have been listening about portables for 10 years. I have 5 kids in this school. Next year, we're going to have our 6th child in this school. We have as much of a vested interest in finding a solution to all of this as anybody else in this room, probably more so, I would imagine, than anyone else in this room. So we take this extremely seriously. Just going back to the meetings we have held recently. So on December the 5th, we had a full presentation of the Ramtech and mobile module solutions by Troy. Chandra, I think you were absent that day, but on December 5th, we had our meeting. We went through all of these options for these 2 modular home structures.
In open council meeting.
In open council meeting.
So it's archived online.
On December 19, we all unanimously agreed for Troy to review Brody Modular. And Chandrika, no offense, but you voted unanimously with us, because we've just approved the minutes, for Troy to move forward with Brody Modular.
No, I disagree with that statement strongly.
Amy, if you want to read the minutes, I'm happy to.
Can you see the minutes, please?
It is very clearly that day we discussed. Troy said Brody Modular has just come in today as an option, and so I asked him specifically, is it the same product like the portables? And he says, no, it's different. I said, how much do we have information? And Anna had also mentioned that I am not aware much about Brody. So the ask to Troy was to go back and get more information on modular buildings.
Correct.
The agenda, let me finish, please.
No, hang
Let
on.
me
You're-
finish.
you're-
Let me finish.
You're interrupting.
Can I finish?
In fact, you're interrupting me originally.
Okay, go
So
ahead.
let me finish, and then I'll
Okay.
let you finish out.
Okay.
December 19, we just approved the minutes. We, as a council, gave direction for Troy to review Brody Modular as a third solution for campus. We asked him to review cash on hand as well as financing options as well as the debt capacity to finance this as a potential solution. January 23, we then met with Government Capital Securities, the new bond advisor, to give us advice on whether or not we could issue bonds, how that would work, and we also met with McCall Park, Kirsten Horton, who would be retained as legal advisors to round out what the financing would be. The whole purpose of today was to bring those three company solutions back to council with financing options and legal options to execute if we choose to execute. But that was the sequence of events which occurred over the last 2 months.
Can I go now? Thank you. Very clearly that day we had the presentations from Ramtech and Mobile Modular. And it was, Troy came in and said, we have a new company called Brody Modular, which has given a thing. And I specifically asked, did they come through the bidding process? He said no. Did they come through the purchasing co-ops, which various government organizations use? Not. We gave Troy the ask to go and look for modular companies out there and give us a lot more information on that. That was the ask. Brody specifically was not even in the thing. Yet, you guys keep talking about the fact that today is the discussion of all the different asks. The agenda reads, authorizing the mayor to negotiate an agreement with Brody Modular Company for the construction of 2 modular buildings at Westlake Academy located at 2600 J.D. Ottinger Road. It does not talk about any discussion of new portables, used portables, other modular companies. How is this prudent use of money when we have not even taken competitive bids from other modular companies which have been in business for much more time than... Personally, I have nothing against Mr. Kobe because I am nothing but grateful of the donations he's made to the school. I have nothing against Brody Modular. I don't even know the company.
Okay, let's continue with the meeting
Yeah, we're
because
gonna
we need
continue in a
to.
second here.
I need to demonstrate to
did
the
not
public.
decide to interrupt you.
I need to demonstrate
I
to the
did
public.
not decide to interrupt you.
No. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Sure. And in the public process, the only sole source non-competitive bids were the cell phone tower and the art project. Which you
Is
voted
that on the agenda today? Sean, is that on the agenda
We're
today?
talking about competitive
Let's
bids.
talk about agenda
And then
items
8
only.
months ago, you voted on all those items.
Let's talk about agenda items today.
Let's take a 10-minute
continue
break.
with the
Let's take a 10-minute break.
Let's talk about agenda items only,
We'll come
please.
back. We'll take a quick break.
I don't get to finish my statements, and we're going for a break.
We'll come back.
We're going on a break.
I'm leaning towards the solution. That's what you said. I'm leaning towards that solution.
Mr. Disgusto, the meeting's not over with. We've been doing this for 3.5 hours. We're taking a 10-minute
Even a
break.
football game has halftime.